everybody. Before we get started on this week's Ask Kristen, I got a quick question for you, which is, who has a cure for spring fever? It seriously just looks like the sky is covered in cobwebs and my skin needs vitamin D. You know what I'm gonna be saying though in a few months? Oh, it's so hot outside. On last week's Ask Kristen, I talked about guys who date older women and mentioned how the term cougar for older women who pursue younger men kind of annoys me because there's no equivalent term for older men. At one point I said, you know, we don't call them anything like zebras or cockatoos. There was so much support in the comments for cockatoo. It really just warmed my heart. Fake Geek Girl said, can we actually start calling older men who want to date younger women cockatoos? Yes, but be warned that I have copyrighted the term cockatoo, so you will have to pay me $5 every time you say it. Martian's Rule shared this little anecdote. My grandma is about 13 or so years older than my grandpa. Dang, grandma. If my grandma didn't date younger men, my mom would have never met my dad because my grandpa and my dad used to be old friends. That plot line totally happened in Friends when Monica started dating Tom Selleck. Martian's Rule. And this week's Ask Kristen question is coming from Rap On It. I think I'm saying that correctly because I'm down with the clever YouTube username wordplay because I'm hip. For a little bit of context, the guy who asked last week's Ask Kristen question was 22 years old, and I mentioned in the video response that 22 is a little bit young for looking for a serious relationship. Rap On It was a little hurt by this. Basically, everyone in my family was married by 22 and have happy, successful marriages. There seems to be an attitude within the 20-something graduate generation right now of commitmentophobia. My question to you, Kristen, do you think our generation is scared of commitment? This is quite personal to me as I've been in a 4-year relationship. I'm 22 with my now fiance, 27, and I find it frustrating when people tell me I'm too young or immature to be engaged. I completely agree that someone's readiness for a long-term relationship is going to depend on that person. How you were raised, past relationship experiences, your career choices and aspirations. When I was 22 years old, I was also in a long-term relationship that I soon thereafter got out of. I realized that I was in no way, shape, or form ready to settle down. As to your question of whether or not millennials are commitment phobic, I don't think it's so much that we are scared of commitment as we are hesitant toward marriage. The average age for marriage for guys these days is 29. Average for women is 27. If you look at census data starting in the 1950s, you have that number steadily rising. There are plenty of reasons outside of just being terrified of commitment on a personal level for millennials to maybe not be as jazzed to jump down the aisle. Our parents' generation, which often panics about our perceived commitment phobia, didn't necessarily set the best happily ever after example, even though they uphold marriage as this bedrock institution of what must precede living together and having kids and really being considered a legitimate adult. Not a lot of them were really able to make it work for the long haul. Only 60% of millennial kids are growing up in 2-parent households. There's a lot of buyer beware in the back of our millennial brains. In a lot of ways too, I think that we should acknowledge that the millennial generation is sort of, whether we realize it or not, rewriting the rules of relationships. It's kind of the Wild West. We are more sexually permissive than ever before. Women don't fall neatly into this bucket of wife and mother, whereas men fall into this bucket of being the breadwinner. We also have to acknowledge economic factors. We're coming out of a recession. Going to college doesn't necessarily guarantee that you're gonna get some fantastic job. We are also referred to as the boomerang generation. I think it's something like 40% of millennial adults return back home to mom and dad to live with them for a while, to figure things out, get on their feet. I think it's just a product of a lot of different social forces in flux right now. In a nutshell, perhaps millennials' quest for stability and fulfillment, which does not look at all like our parents' generation's perceptions of stability and fulfillment, is misinterpreted as commitment phobia. Our value systems are simply different. I don't think that that's necessarily a bad thing. Our generation needs to embrace choice. Whether you are 22 and want to get married, or 42 and want to get married, or just never want to get married at all. But I want to hear from you though, because I have a feeling that perhaps for older viewers, there's so much strong disagreement with a lot that I had to say, and maybe for younger viewers too. Leave your comments below, and as always, ask me questions so I can answer them.